my watch sort of had 3 missed calls from my sister. I think my dad's died, my mum's at the hospital. There's lots of traits between football managers and psychopaths. Thanks, gorgeous.
Hi, I'm Gab Sutton, here with the Sportsman, speaking to Grimsby Town boss David Artell. David, good to see you. How you found the first, coming up to a year in charge of Grimsby Town?
Yeah, it's been lots of challenges on and off the pitch. The first 6 weeks were extremely tough, I'd say. Then the transfer window come straight away after that. Then we had a real tough period on the pitch. Then I thought we stabilised, and I think we're now heading in the right direction. How quickly we are, well, then that's open to discussion. But I think everyone would agree we're heading in the right direction.
I think so. When first time I interviewed you was post-match at Cheltenham when your Cruciade had drawn 1-1, I think, and I asked you about your style of play, and your first words to me were, "That's us." And so I'm kind of wondering how close you are to being able to say "that's us" about Grimsby Town.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. I think we have made significant steps, but nowhere near enough steps. So I think the first steps to get going is always the hardest. We are now a much more progressive team. We're not hoping to win. We are trying to win. That don't always come off. So there's a consistency issue. But there's also a quality issue. However, that is improving. There's no getting around that. We've got a group of lads who are all trying for the football club, all trying to improve themselves. And if you do that, then you will. They get coached well, right, by the staff and the support staff. So, we are heading in the right direction. We've got to obviously constantly make better and faster strides, because the football world demands that of us.
Sure.
However, we are definitely heading in the right direction.
I think one thing that stands out to me is that unlike your previous job, where the style of play you wanted to implement was kind of steeped ingrained in the history of the club, that's maybe not the case at Grimsby Town. And I wonder how much of it has been a case of, is persuading the right word, other people, and trying to win people over a little bit in terms of the style of play, that it's the right way to move forward.
Yeah, I think winning hearts and minds has been a big challenge, and I don't think that's complete by a long stretch. Obviously, results dictate that as well.
Sure.
But like you said, we've come here, the owners wanted a game model, which I know is a bit of a new fangled word, if you like. That wasn't in football parlance 10, 15, 20 years ago. But they wanted a distinct style that the football club could build on, whether, I'm here or not. And that will remain, so this isn't my way, this is now the Grimsby way. And with, me and Gareth Jennings, who's the non-exec technical director, has spent a long time working on lots of aspects of how we build and deliver that, and how we measure that. We're not quite there yet. It may sound bonkers to some fans that have been in the job nearly a year, and we've not actually fully defined that. But that's where we're at, because that's how long these things take. Brighton were in the 4th division, and Brentford were in the 4th division when they first started their journey, and we know where they are now. And obviously, they're two highly successful stories. And the clubs to look up to, but they've got a very distinct way, and they've got their way. Now, neither of them are our way, because our way needs to be our way, and it'll live long. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, it's got to live long beyond me, and it's got to have succession. So it's being built, if you like. It's getting formulated, and it works both ways. It works first team downwards and academy upwards. Because I think every club now in the lower leagues is understanding that the academy can play a big part in, how they achieve their goals. And we've had, I think we've had virtually every game 2 academy players in the team, which is probably not been done for a while.
A little bit by forced upon you, you might say, in terms of the matchday squad with
Maybe, but then I also think something like Cam Gardner, who's 18, the first year pro, I put him in on merit at Crawley away last year. Because it was the last game of the season, some might have seen that as a token gesture. It wasn't. He deserved to play. He was outstanding pre-season and he's had lots of games this year. Is he the finished article? No. He's got a lot to learn, but he's having a right good go. And whatever he's in that mindset, whether he's trying to improve, and he is improving, then he's going to play games of football. And that's credit to the academy staff that produced Cam. We've got the same with Ev. You know, Ev's 23, 24. He's been at this football club a long time. He's never played more than, I think, 10 games on the spin. I think he'd not played 20 games or something. Yeah. And it's like they're here, but it's just developing them, getting them ready. You know, we put him on for spending more last year. Then he got really poorly, so he had to come back. But it's like so we've got all that to build as well and get better. So we're sort of working top to bottom and bottom to top to try and get it all aligned, whilst also building our way and the Grimsby way. You know, Alan Buckley had his way, and that was the most successful period of this football club in its recent history. Yeah. And we've got to get back to our way, as opposed to just hoping that something happens, and that's not easy, but it's something that we're working extremely hard to do when we're not, you know, actually coaching the players and doing, you know, IDPs with them and all the rest of it. So it's a challenge. It's one that's got a lot of data in it as well. So it's a real good challenge for myself, because, like I say, in my previous role, it was already there, you know, ingrained in the walls. Nothing much written down, no data involved. Whereas this is coming at it with a blank piece of paper and actually building it, and it's it's a real good challenge.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about when you lost 5-1 at home to Doncaster. You actually played really well in the first half of that game, and then, you know, Doncaster were very clinical that day, but a few people a bit apprehensive at that time. And I just wonder how important was the post-match conversations to sort of troubleshooting some of the challenges that you'd had, and maybe building a few more bridges between yourselves and the playing staff.
Yeah, I don't think the bridges between the playing staff and myself or the coaches was a problem. I don't. I think, you know, I'd only been in the job, I think 2 months, two and a half months, something like that. One of the staff, we had a meeting the day after, the staff, the players, get it all out in the open. You know, nothing, there was no shouting, there was no, come on, lad, you know, where are we at? What we're going to achieve? That kind of message, them kind of questions. And it was very honest and forthright from staff, and not just myself, all the staff, and all the players. You know, and then the staff had a meeting on the Sunday. Then I had a meeting with the owners on the Monday, with some consultants who were working for the club at the time, and, you know, between us all, there was clarity in the sense that it's all right, you know, we've just got walloped at home, but we actually played really well for 45 minutes of it. I think they had 4 shots and scored 5 goals, and because it's a local derby, because it's at home, it's suddenly, you know, worse than what it is. And I sort of get it, because we'd lost 3-1, I think we'd drawn 5-0, I think then we lost 6-1. So I understand the apprehension. I think a lot of it was about the club had, in the previous 5 years, had been relegated twice to the conference. So the fans knew what it was. Yeah. I come out and said we won't get relegated, and got absolute pelters for it. But I knew that we had enough in the changing room, and being a manager in League Two, to know that see a good team that was just struggling a little bit, or a poor team, and we were the former, not the latter. So then, you know, and I can always remember I spoke to a guy called Jed Salzano, who previous to the Doncaster game, and he worked for the SBS, worked for Cobra. So he was one of the guys that went in when there was a terrorist threat into Downing Street and what have you. Right. And his word, I'll never forget his words: in times of crisis, talk more.
Interesting. And stay calm, I think, would be the other one as well. Yeah.
Stay calm, talk more. Yeah. They were 2 big things. And I can remember I asked lots of questions of a lot of people. What do you think? So I asked reporters after the game, what do you think? I know you're going to ask me loads of questions in a minute. You're going to ask me about the game. What do you think? You've seen Grimsby Town for 40 years. What do you think? And I can remember one, John Tondo said to me, he said, his first manager ever asked me, I said, well, why would I not? You know your football club better than I know your football club. I've been here 2.5 months. You've been here a long time, and he gave his forthright views. And it was like, okay. And I think when you listen, when you take things on board, when everyone's still fighting, there was never a question about throwing a towel in or not playing for the club or anything like that. You get to where you need to be. You do, because you're still heading in the right direction. And it's interesting now, I think, that when we look back at that period, I think it galvanised us more than we appreciated at the time.
Yeah, I think that was possibly the reason why I used the words building bridges, because not that there had been any issues previously, but sometimes players need that space to understand that they can give feedback and actually feel like that's going to be taken on board. And sometimes it can take a while with anyone for that message to...
Yeah, I can remember speaking to Danny Rose, and he said something along the lines of, I'll come and speak to you. But no, speak freely. I'm not that kind of bloke who'll shout at you. I'm just not. I'll understand. I might disagree with you, but I won't shout at you for giving your opinion. That doesn't get us anywhere. And we're now in a place where there is, I suppose the modern term is psychological safety. People can say what they want. Everyone's opinion's valid. Just because I've got head coach after my name doesn't mean that my opinion's more valid than anyone else's. Because we're all the same. That's how I manage people. Because a 19-year-old might have a better idea than myself. Why would I arrogantly assume that I've got all the answers? I think that's foolish.
What's the trick, though? Is it a trick? But what's the secret to making players feel safe and feel like having that psychological safety and feeling like they can share their ideas?
It's when they make a mistake, giving them support and understanding, as opposed to just going, nah, you're wrong, idiot. Because you just feel belittled in front of everyone. So you think, well, that's the last time I'm going to say anything.
You're not going to, exactly. You're not going to share it again.
I go, right, okay, I can sort of understand what you're saying. Explain to me a bit more, because I'm trying to, because I don't really see your point, or I don't get this. Right, okay, I'm not really sure that's what I was meaning, but okay, we'll come back to that if we need to, and we move on. So never belittle anyone, never understand everyone's opinion. One of the person who speaks up most in our dressing room is Cam Gardner. He's 18.
Right, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's remarkable, because I've found, generally speaking, I think younger people, especially teenagers, early 20s, on average, possibly find more difficulty speaking out and voicing their opinions than maybe people who might be a bit older. So that's really impressive that he's reached that stage.
I just think to myself, why would you not?
Yeah.
I think I've got to be a bit careful that I don't, with someone like Cam, who's never experienced another first team dressing room, leading up the garden path a bit, then he gets a move, and he says to insert any manager you can think of, think you're Gaffer, you'll find this, and he goes to town on him, because some managers will do. I think I've got to be a bit careful to make sure that he doesn't assume that this is normal, because I don't think it is, or it certainly wasn't in my experience as a player. And at the same time, the tail can't wag the dog. The players can't just go, no, we want to do this and that's it. But at the same time, if they're saying we feel comfortable doing this, fine. Take it on board. Whether we do that or not, ultimately my decision. However, noted, right, if they want to do this and do this, right, how can we manipulate this to be whatever this, and that's how it is.
How important have Jason Stockwood and Andrew Pettit and Polly Bancroft, I suppose, as well, to creating that sort of culture throughout a football club? Because it all trickles down, doesn't it?
I think one of the first things, if you spoke to Jason and Andrew, one of the first things that they did, they appointed Debbie Cook, who's now gone into the EFL, the community. She was brilliant on culture. absolutely outstanding on culture. So I walked into a football club that had a really strong culture, really strong identity, you know, of what we are, who we are. You know, we're not something that we're not. Everyone knows, you know, all the players have been down the docks this morning, watching all the fish get sold at 6 o'clock in the morning, for example. You know, we know what we are. So that was really good. Obviously then Debbie left in February, you know, which in that first 2 or 3 months. And obviously Polly's come in, more of a commercial, I come in, more process driven, brilliant. And she's taking the club on because the culture's already there. And the culture didn't start and stop at Debbie, it came literally from the owners. You know, I've been abroad with Jason for a few days and you know.
You spoke very fondly at the fans forum of that for a few days, yeah.
You know, it was. I really enjoyed the trip. I really enjoyed his company, and I think he'd say the same. You know, and I'd do the same with Andrew, obviously, because fundamentally they're good people, honourable people, unbelievable values. You know, heart in the right place. They want the best for their football club, and they see their football club as the town's football club. And that's why I'm here. That's the truth. You know, it's a long way from my home, my family home. Yeah. But I chose Jason and Andrew because they are unbelievable people. And that came across when they were interviewing me and I were interviewing them.
Yeah. You certainly don't get that a lot at every EFL club, do you? That style of leadership. No. I wanted to ask you about travelling for recruitment because I know literally after the season starts, I think you're flying out to different places. And how important is it for players that I think it's very different from what I can see. If I'm a footballer and I've got one suitor that's flown over to speak to me and try and sort of contact and do a deal, and then there's another that's kind of been on the phone and been, you know. I would probably lean towards the suitor that are making the effort to come over and see me and watch me play, and because I would feel like I'm a bit more wanted there, perhaps.
Well, I think that's all the psychological, you know, sort of nuance that goes into any football deal. You know, I can remember going to meet Chris Porter when I signed him at Crewe in, was it Gatwick Airport it was. He was going out to get married, and I was flying out on my family holiday with my wife and 2 kids.
Oh, so you weren't expecting to meet him there?
No, we arranged to meet him.
Oh, I see, right, okay.
That was on a Thursday night. He was going to get married on the Tuesday. Right. He wanted it sorted before he went away and got married and had his honeymoon for 2 weeks. He wasn't going to be in the country for the best part of 3 weeks. Right. I met him and I took him a card. I'd found out his fiance's name. Took him a card, and his words were, "You do know that when I take this back home to Cheryl that she'll want me to sign for you." Of course. That's why I've done it. Yeah. Because I want you to sign for me and this football club. It's the same with going to see people, taking the time to invest in them, you know, so, and that's no different to the players here. You know, the greatest thing that I can give to the players is my time and try and give them my experience, my knowledge. That's the best thing I can do for the players. And if they don't understand or they don't agree, then they should say. Well, when you've got that, you've then got players going, actually, he's a decent guy, I'm going to run through a brick wall for him. You know, and whether that's because we've gone and watched them, because we've took the time to go and, you know, meet them in person, whatever that might be. Sometimes that can happen, sometimes it definitely can't happen. You know, January, it's very difficult for that to happen. However, that's where, you know, there was something in the Harvard Business Review, which I know is a bit left field, about what Gen Z, you know, people wanted, and it was growth in their own role. So, you know, I presume play more games, if you wanted to allude to a footballer. The opportunity to progress, get a move, go up the leagues, and whilst they're in it, actually the opportunity to grow beyond. So in other words, learn other things, not just their role. That's what Gen Zs want. We have to give them that, because that's what they expect. You know, it was like something like 94%, 92%, 96%. In other words, all of them wanted it. It weren't 64% or whatever. And it's like, well, if that's what it is, that's what we've got to give them. And again, it's not the tail wagging the dog or anything like that. But it's like, these are you. They are different to when I was 18, 19. Yeah. You know, you'll hear managers all the time, oh, there's no leaders, there's no this, there's no that. Well, yeah, because we haven't produced them. We haven't coached them to be like us. And that sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's not a good thing. That's how it is. Now we have to make sure that rather than moaning about it, we do something about it as coaches in this football club. And if we do that, then they will improve.
David, I wanted to ask you about Evan Curry, who you mentioned earlier, because he's somebody who I know Grimsby Town fans were speaking about when he first came into the team as being a super exciting talent. I think he had a few years where his trajectory maybe wasn't as linear as he might have liked, which is part of the course. But you seem to be having the best season of his career so far under your guidance.
Yeah, I can remember when I first come to the club, like I say, in some point in December, I phoned his agent, I said, look, I want him to go out on loan. It's important. He hasn't played games for 2.5 years. I said, that can't happen. He's got to play games next season. He's got 2 years left. And he's still got a year and a half left now. And it's like, he's got to play games. We're not looking to get rid of him. He's got to go and play games. Like I say, went to Spennymoor, played 2 or 3 games and then got really ill. But one in them 2 or 3 games, he showed he'd got more than enough. And then he come back and he trained and, I said to him, right in the summer, look, I expect you in the team. When you come back, I expect you to be in the team. Now don't get me wrong, there's a few injuries that might have helped in that situation with Ev, but he has took his chance. Why? Because he had a really good pre-season, he stayed fit, he wants to get better, he's got the bit between his teeth. Again, is he the finished article? No, he's got to improve the final third work. Without a shadow of a doubt, he hasn't scored or created enough goals. It's a big area of improvement for him. But then that was also the case with Kieran Green, who's 28. Yeah. And he's been scoring goals and creating goals. So we know we can get that into him. And I firmly believe he scores one, and then it's like, okay, go and get another. And it's sort of like opening that kind of worms for him, and opening that belief and that mindset. But it boils down to sort of just constantly having your arm around them, metaphorically speaking, to go, it's okay, you're going in the right direction, but when you get here, do this. And when you get here, do that. Or can you do this? Can you do that? And eventually it will pay off, because you are working extremely hard, Ev. You're getting these opportunities, you're getting into these positions. Now it's just making sure you take one of these or do this little bit, because you've done that, you do this in this area of the pitch. And keep doing it and keep going, and if they fail, next time they fail a bit better. And making sure they understand that, look, you didn't do very well there, but actually you did do better here. And look, when you got there, you did a bit better. When you went there, you didn't do either. And showing them so they understand, right, okay, because it's really important, and then doing it on the pitch as well. And you're constantly doing that sort of like feedback loop with them and feedback cycle.
How's Evan getting on in terms of collecting the ball off the defence? Because I can see that he's a very sound technician and he's got a good physical profile as well. Sometimes I feel like when the ball's with the defence, from what I've seen of Evan, he could do with maybe being a little bit braver sometimes. Or would you say that's maybe the role of one of the other midfielders?
I think that is a fair analysis. I don't think that's too unfair. But then at the same time, you've got to remember, I think he's played 50 games max. Sure. And he's been asked to do things that he might not have been asked to do before. He had a decent upbringing, West Ham, etc. But then you can lose your way, and men's football is, first team football is different to academy football. It is. And you've got to remember, again, and I'm using the comparison of Kieran Green because Green is at 28. Yeah. It's took him a while to find and understand what he's good at and understand how he can be effective. And Ev's in a similar boat. They're working extremely hard, they're doing lots of good things, but there's lots of areas for improvement. And if they get them into their improvement, which we're trying to do with them, then they'll be even better than what they already are.
Let's hope that's the case. You mentioned Kieran Green there. He's had a new contract, and probably not something that I would necessarily have been expecting maybe 6 months ago, but I've been so impressed with the way Kieran Green has really committed to this style of play, even if it's not something he's necessarily used to. And I guess the drive and dynamism that he's brought to your side alongside maybe some of the more technical players.
Yeah, I think if you ever spoke to Greenie, you'd know that he is a brilliant bloke. First and foremost, he epitomises the football club better than most. He'd do anything for you. He'd run through a brick wall for you. wants to get better, constantly trying to get better, and he's been getting better. You know, his goal at Gillingham was a terrific goal. Great move, great goal, really well finished.
Lung-busting run, wasn't it?
Yeah, you know, split open the defence, Denver, and he's there and he just strokes it in the bottom, because we've been working really hard with him, picking up them positions and finishing them positions, because he gets them opportunities, you know, regularly. You know, we spoke to a manager and said, what was it about us? You know, him running, you know, it's a real strength of his. If we played him a bit deeper, which I think he'd probably come to the football club as a bit of a destroyer and play a bit deeper, that takes away a lot of his game.
Yeah.
Or if he is running, he's running back towards his own goal. And although that's effective, it's not as effective as going the other way. So it was more about, with Greeny, it was more about understanding what he was really good at and what he wasn't good at equally. And then making sure he could do it. And pre-season was handy for that, really handy. So we could try things and not get too caught up in results, because people do.
No, yeah.
It's like,
it's absolutely crazy, isn't it?
But pre-season results aren't important. And you could see that he was taking to it like a duck to water. There was refinement then. There's still refinement now. But he's an effective player for us.
Certainly is. I wanted to ask you about playing out from the back is something, obviously a hallmark of your sides. Is it still a challenge for you sometimes to bypass the press consistently? Because obviously it's one thing if you've got lots of space to play out from the back, that can be great. But then also if you come under a lot of pressure, sometimes it can be a bit of a challenge sometimes, can't it?
I think challenge is a good word, but that's a challenge we've got to answer. I think if we come up against a low block, so we've got lots of space to progress the ball in our own third, our own half, fine. Well, the challenge is further up the pitch. If we've got a team that high presses us, well, we've got to beat that. And we know we'd have more space when we beat that. They're equally the same challenge. Just because one's a bit close to our goal doesn't make one less or more important than the other. Because they are different challenges, but ultimately they present the same challenge. We've got to get past their opposition. And we can do that in a variety of ways, and we've got to know the variety of ways. So it's not a case of just keep repeating what's been successful for the last 5 minutes, for the last 5 games. You've got to be able to do that across a variety of different problems that the opposition will ask you in League Two. And if we can do that consistently, you know, I think one of the things, and this was probably my fault when I first come to the football club, I spoke about playing a certain way, and we went all in. And then the players really took to that, then found it really, really tough. And the fans saw that as, that's the reason. And it's like, well, actually, that's the reason why teams get promoted. It's just that we're not doing it very well. You know, you look at the teams that went up last year, you know, they were the best footballing teams. Yeah. Wrexham, Mansfield, Stockport, Crawley.
I think it's partly a mindset thing as much as the objective ability of the players. I think if you've got a mindset where you're going to embrace that style and give it the best go and try and stay calm when you're under pressure, then...
We've played Bradford twice, one in the League Cup, once in the Cup. We scored a goal that had 10 passes. We scored another goal that had 17 passes. Yeah. Now I have no idea whether Grimsby have scored a goal with 17 passes previously. But I know that Bradford couldn't deal with us. Is that going to work every week? No, it's not. But that's the challenge, to try and get to that point and try and control games and have outcomes like that. No, the opposition aren't going to let you and all the rest of it. But on them two games, 3 weeks apart, once in the League Cup, once in the league, that we beat them both. We haven't beat them for 26 years or something. That was Grimsby's bogey team, apparently. Well, we've just beat them twice in 3 weeks by playing a way that makes it easier in the end if we play the medium to long game of having success and repeated success. Now I appreciate that in the short term that might be rocky, highly frustrating. It is highly frustrating. Whether the fans think that, I'm highly frustrated, trust me, right, when it doesn't go right. But that's the challenge. And if we keep the steady hand on the tiller to keep going forward, then ultimately, I've got absolutely no doubt we will be successful, because that's what happened in my previous role. And I've got no doubt that, we can do that here.
I always feel like Denver Hume is very important to your attempts to beating the press, because of he seems to be one of those players who is very confident in the ball and will try and take it past people in the game. I think actually it was his run, wasn't it, for Greeny's goal at Gillingham? So, he can do that, can he?
I think he's got 6 assists.
Right, okay.
Left back, we've only played 17 games in all competitions or something. He's got 6 assists from left back. So we know that he's got ability. That's why we wanted him at the football club. And he's done terrific. Another great bloke, wants to learn, wants to get better, can go both ways, inside or out. And when you do that, then it's a real problem for opposition to stop you.
Certainly is. I wanted to ask you about your strong away form this year. You've won 4 in 7 on the road. What do you think has been the key to it?
Mindset. See, psychologically. Without a shadow of a doubt. We won. Obviously, I come in end of November, right at the end of November. Them kid on's away first game, yeah. Oxford away second game. We were top of the League One, I think, at the time. Real tough start. Drew at MK, lost probably undeservedly at Oxford in the cup. And I'm going, right, these lads can play. Bit of a false dawn, I have to say. But I had no comprehension why they hadn't won away from home. We won away from home at the end of December, Salford, and then we didn't win away till March.
Was it
Crewe?
Crewe?
Yeah, Crewe. I think it was 3-0, something like that. But it wasn't because we were bad players, particularly. It was a and it's like that. You're already defeating yourself. So when we go to Gillingham, we weren't lost at home for 11 months. Go on. They're not as good as what they say. In the top of the league, we can do this, and we give them all the tactical and instructions and the game plan and all the rest of it, and they go out and deliver a 1-0 win, deservedly so. Then the lads and that was based off. I believe it or not, we beat Gillingham away because we played brilliantly at Chesterfield and lost. We deserved to beat Chesterfield.
Yeah.
Week before, 2 weeks before, lost 2-1. We were brilliant. We should have beaten them.
One of the best performances of the season, possibly. Yeah.
So the underlying performance was really good. And it's a case of, right, keep that underlying performance, you will win games.
Yeah.
Belief, a mindset. The lads are going, we believe you. Because the footballers aren't stupid. They might not be very intelligent, some of them might be super intelligent, but they're not stupid. I haven't met a stupid one when it comes to football.
Yeah.
So you can't lie to them. So when you're good against Chesterfield, you know you were really good. When you're good against Bradford twice, for example, you were really good. Keep doing that. Keep being good. And that then leads into more. So I think we've won 4 on the spin away from home.
Yeah.
So that's a belief thing. Now we've got to replicate that at home, of course. But again, that's that inconsistency that we're talking about, and that happens in games. Really good in the first half. Last Saturday, really poor second half. So that's where we're at. But then that's miles ahead of really poor in the first half. Some games last year, really poor in the second half last year. We've gone past that stage.
Yeah, is there a fitness component to the possible drop-off in the second halves, or is there a squad depth issue with the number of injuries that you've had? Or
certainly, the injuries have played a significant part. There's at least 2 or 3 games this season where we've got overrun physically towards the end of the games because the opposition have either made changes or their physical players have got stronger as the game's gone on, and our technical players can't then match that. And we haven't had the opportunity to change that because of the injuries. We haven't, until last weekend, we hadn't had a midfield change on the bench all season, which is bonkers. Not one. So we've been playing Luca Barrington as a wide forward there. Against Bradford, we played 2 fullbacks. We ended the game with 2 fullbacks.
Right.
So we're now hopefully coming through that in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That will be a massive.
Curtis Thompson's coming back, is he?
Jordan Davis.
Jordan Davis.
So they're 2 huge ones. Jordan Luca's fit.
He had a great game against Lincoln, didn't he, in the EFL Trophy, Jaden?
Yeah. So we're heading in the right direction with injuries, hopefully, although we're always a game away from it being disaster again. But that will help. And then we've got one or two other issues and to sort out in terms of squad balance and things like that. But we're hoping we can sort of resolve them in January to then be a bit more consistent again. And if we are, we're 10th in the league and a point off the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which after 14 games, 15 games, something like
13, I think, possibly.
13,
yeah.
I think any Grimsby Town fan would have took that. So we're heading in the right direction and we've got to just keep going.
Yeah, certainly on the right track. David, you're possibly one of the most radically honest managers that I've come across, and I'm wondering.
Thanks, gorgeous.
Throw me off track there, Dave. I'm wondering what are the kind of perks and pitfalls of being minded that way and being sort of radically honest with people.
I think sometimes, I think when you're too honest, sometimes people can see that as me being arrogant at times. I think anyone who knows me knows that I'm definitely not arrogant.
Yeah.
I think it can also reveal too much to opposition, to fans sometimes. But at the same time, I'd much rather err on the side of honesty than dishonesty.
Yeah.
I'm not here to lie to people. I'm here to be brutally honest with them because I think that's the best way to be. Now, I appreciate there's a timing issue sometimes with truth. You don't want to, if somebody's just had a bad game, tell them exactly why. Some players might need it right then, some players might definitely not. So there's a timing to honesty. But at the same time, I think, you go on lots of courses, you do lots of things, you hear lots of different leaders, whether that's in the military or, air ambulance, them kind of people. And they'll all say you've got to be authentic as a leader. You've got to be true to yourself. You've got to be honest. I think that's something that I do so that everyone knows where they stand.
I think sometimes it can take a while for people to sort of get that though. So I think radical honesty is great for people that you know for a long time who know where you're coming from. I sometimes think in the early stages it can possibly be a challenge because not everyone knows that what your intentions are going to be.
I think you've got to be mindful of where people have come from.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily mean a football club, although it could be a football club with a certain manager who has lied to them. But it might also be that they've never had a father. They don't believe men. This is young men who don't believe men because their father has lied to their mum all their growing up, all their life. So why would they believe me? When I say, I'm being honest, they're going, yeah, right. I know a fellow who says that and he never shows up when he says he's going to take me out. So you've got to be really mindful of that. But at the same time, over time, I do think truth wins.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way to go. I do, because I just don't think there's any then ambiguity. And if somebody lies to me, I'm really disappointed in them.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to lie. If you've got a problem, just tell me. Whether that's with me, any of the staff, any of the players, whatever it might be, at home, don't lie. Just come and tell me. Because I'll help you. Because that's my job to help you, on and off the pitch.
Yeah.
And when you get to a point where that happens, all the rubbish, you can leave it in either in the car park or even better, somewhere by your front door or on your way in. Because we don't need it. Because the job's hard enough as it is without trying to worry about what you're saying to who and what's this and what's... Come on. That's not how it should be. We're all in this together. We're all trying to get to the same goals, whether that's promotions, whether that's the players getting a move higher up the leagues or whatever, score so many goals, play so many games, so many clean sheets, whatever they are, everyone's trying to get to the same point, essentially. But we're not going to do that by bickering or lying to each other. And as a leader, Why would I put that sort of element of the culture in anyone's psyche? Because it's just bonkers.
Sure. I wanted to ask you about the experience of managing at a time of grief, if you don't mind me asking you about that, David, because you obviously lost your father, I think it might have been around March time, and you're obviously straight back into the management. Was that difficult to kind of balance the sort of the needs of your personal life at the time with the needs of the job?
I think that happens all the time. You know, work-life balance is always... I think if you ask any football manager if they're honest, that's tough. You know, because we are so invested. I know my daughter spoke to a psychologist from the LMA. She was doing a study into family, and she asked if she could speak to my daughter, and my daughter agreed. And I think she said something along the lines of there's lots of traits between football managers and psychopaths. Because they exude, and it's the same with CEOs and psychopaths. There's lots of common personality traits.
Right.
And although we are different, obviously, because we're not psychopaths.
I've just been able to.
Not yet. You know, there's lots of common traits. So we know it's difficult. And obviously, you know, I can remember the Bradford game on Easter Monday. We'd just conceded a penalty in the 93rd minute. They'd just scored to equalise, and my watch sort of had 3 missed calls from my sister. And my family know not to ring me at work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's that feeling of, I can recognise that feeling of dread. Normally, you know, if there's family news, it's people have rung you because often you get texted by certain family members. So it's that feeling of, oh God, what's... Yeah.
You know, once I thought, oh, my sister might have accidentally done it. There's always that chance. Twice I'm thinking something's up. Third time in 5 minutes. And the game's just about to finish. And the game finishes, I go back in, check everyone's hand, go back upstairs, you know, ring her, right. I think my dad's died, my mum's at the hospital, blah, blah. And it turned out he hadn't. He had just had a massive stroke. Right. And that was on the Monday. Said to Sean, right, I'm getting off. This is what I've just been told. So I didn't even go and see the players. We already had the Tuesday, Wednesday off because we'd played Friday, Monday, Easter, and I was giving them 2 days off. I didn't watch the game or anything like that back, which I normally do the day after, or speak to the staff. I spoke to the staff on the Wednesday. Went in on the Thursday. Went in on the Thursday. Then coming on the Friday. Then went back home, you know, back to the hospital and whatever. Went back home on the Friday. And I can remember I was in the academy office. We had a I'm trying to think, it was the Friday afternoon. We had a PDP meeting. We was talking about scholars and first and second, third year pros. And my mum rang me and she just said he just died. I've got to leave, you know, middle of the meeting, get my car, go, all the rest of it. Tell the staff as I'm leaving, turn up the next day against Newport. You know, it was tough. Yeah. There's no getting around the fact that it was tough. It was tough. I'm glad we won. It's where they wanted me to be. Yeah. That's why I did it. If truth be told, I weren't really... All the work had been done. You know, the staff are great. Thursday afternoons is always sort of game prep. To finalise what we've done in the morning, if you like, because it's all been done before then as well. So there's not much to do Friday afternoon, set pieces, substitutions, what happens, what ifs. So you know, I felt as though, it sounds crazy, Saturdays you do the least work, if that makes sense.
Because you're trusting what you've done in the week. Yeah.
You know, you do an hour and a half work, where the rest of the week you're doing 12 hours. You know, so and if truth be told, you stand in the little white box where you can't put your arms above your head or do anything like that because you get told off. Um, and the only thing you can do is give instructions at half time and make some substitutions, and you're in the lap of the gods of your players.
Yeah, and almost I think a lot of managers say you don't overload them with instructions on match day because it's almost too much. It's like they want to kind of focus on the game.
There's all
mindset.
different ways of doing it, but
Sure.
yeah, that was it. And like I say, I think the most emotional I felt was literally after the final whistle.
Yeah.
That was the hardest bit, because at that point I don't think you just sort of carry on.
Yeah.
Whereas that was like, wow. And I can remember walking around the pitch, clapping the fans who were brilliant, you know, doing the press, getting in my car and driving home and going, wow, what a...
Yeah.
But yeah, just doing that, and, you know, still think about him now, obviously. And listen, there's far worse things happen in the world than a parent dying, but not many more, I don't think. But, look, it's... You just have to get on with life, you know. He would have wanted me to get on with life and support my mum. I go and see her quite often, and that's it. Yeah, just I don't know what I'm not great in sort of If you speak to my wife, she'll say I haven't got any feelings. never mind some. But I just think you've got to. This isn't a dress rehearsal. Let's crack on. Let's get on with it. That's what he wanted me to do. That.
Yeah.
Be there for my mum. You know. Let's go. And I think it gives you a bit more perspective. I think it gives you a bit more, you know, steel. And a bit of something, I don't know, something added to drive you if you needed it. And that's what it is. I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, just go, right, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, and have enough time to process it, if you like, and that's what I've done, you know, make sure my mum's okay. Find enough time for yourself if I need a bit of time. Like I said, the staff have been great. One thing that I definitely weren't going to do is put myself in the situation that I was in my previous role, where I did everything. Yeah. Because that just weren't good.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. This is your first experience working with Joe Hutchinson, working with the head of recruitment. How helpful has that been, do you think?
Massive.
Yeah.
You know, like I say, I can remember deadline day, I think I took over a crew on the 8th of January, 31st, the deadline. That January, I had 160 phone calls. Went to watch a game against Exeter against Wickham, deadline day, which was a mistake on my part, naivety, because we had Wickham on the Saturday. 160 phone calls after taking training in the morning, basically in my car all the way down the M6 to M5. I said watch the game. The game was going on. I didn't really learn anything because I was on the phone all the time, trying to get a couple of players out on loan and a couple of players in. And, you know, you can't do that. Yeah. You just can't do that. And as much as I wanted help, that was refused until, believe it or not, the irony is I was allowed to bring a head of recruitment and a scout in, and they signed on the Monday morning and I was sacked on the Monday afternoon, which just about
so you did have a few hours.
Yeah, so I literally had 3 hours with one after badgering for a while, but no, it's much more helpful. You know, the processes are much more robust. Yeah. Much better, much more thorough, so that we hopefully make better decisions, and that's crucial.
With that in mind, then, David, are you excited about what can be achieved for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I keep saying that we're a work in progress. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that we are going to get promoted. We're not going to get relegated. And we are still heading in the right direction. You know, we've played, I think, virtually everyone in the top 10 bar Port Vale, something like that.
A lot of the home games have been against some of the top sides as well, haven't they?
Yeah, it's been, I think we had the second toughest start on paper after Salford. And given the fact that we've had 9 injuries for most parts of it, we've done ever so well to be where we are. But at the same time, we know we've got a lot of work to do. And if we keep working hard and keep improving like we have done, certainly for the previous 3 or 4 months, but also actually over the last 11 months, 12 months, then we're going to keep progressing and keep heading in the right direction.
David, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.